Philip, you are the program director for EOY, or the Ernst Young Entrepreneur of the Year program, and been running this since, say 2007. But the program has been on since 2002.
Yes.
And over the years of this program that's been going on, what is the deep purpose that most people do not know?
Okay, first and foremost, this program, as you rightly put, has been run for 24 years. And the reason why we started Entrepreneur of the Year way back in the US in the 80s was because they recognized that entrepreneurs were the lifeblood of at that point in time, a particular town in the US. And if you look at the bigger scale, entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of any economy. And so when we took it on in 2002, we decided that we wanted to recognize Malaysian entrepreneurship in various angles. Right? So if you ask me today, entrepreneurship could be the nasi kandar seller 50 years ago who used to carry the food to your house, and that has become Grab food. It could be the wonton mee man who used to bring his carriage to your house, or the satay guy, or the hardware man who used to come around, as you know, in those days. So entrepreneurship has been in the lifeblood of Malaysians since time immemorial. And so we felt the relevance of recognizing Malaysian entrepreneurship. And so in 2002, when we started off, we said, yes, we want to do this. We want to do this to actually recognize these stories, because they become inspiration for growth of entrepreneurship, as we wanted to, contribute to the growth of the economy. Now, it also meant that we needed to make sure that we had a very proper structure, and I'm sure you want to know more about the structure later on. But it's also a manner for us to brand ourselves, to be honest, to brand ourselves with entrepreneurs, to brand ourselves as an organization that looks at what businesses can do to transform themselves. So there are many reasons, but those are probably a few key ones.
But when you go back to the purpose of this, you really put a perspective about how it started in the US, now in Malaysia, and all. What it means to the entrepreneurs today, and how do they see this award?
Okay. So I just give you some statistics. About 4 or 5 years ago, we did a branding survey, global branding survey. And this is done by EY globally, confidential survey and so on. And what came out is that Malaysia was well recognized as the number one brand in promoting entrepreneurship, in profiling entrepreneurs, in making sure entrepreneurs felt they were recognized and valued in the country. And we came out tops in one of the categories. This is globally done. And so it just justified to us that the entrepreneurs in Malaysia have seen that EOY is actually a good platform for them to brand themselves, to be recognized, but also importantly for them to spur other entrepreneurs to want to actually come into this space and make an impact on the economy and the country, jobs and whatever not.
How does this process work? I mean, who can be part of this EOY program from an entrepreneur's perspective? Can any entrepreneur be part of this?
Yeah. Okay, so in terms of criteria, the main thing is you either have to be Malaysian or Malaysian PR. That's number one for Malaysian program, because we want to make sure that people who are Malaysians or Malaysian PRs are the one recognized, right? Second thing is you have to be owner or a driver of your business. You cannot be a professional manager, and normally we would know those who are professional managers because they are actually running the business for another entrepreneur. So if you're an entrepreneur, you own the business, you found the business, or you are actually taken over the business and you're actually driving it, you own equity, you have a say in the decision making. You may have independent directors, but you have a say in actually how you run the business. You shape the strategy, you shape the future direction and so on. And we have criteria that assesses that. So anyone technically can, but you cannot be a professional manager. You must showcase that you are really an entrepreneur, and we recognize you in a number of categories, right? I can share the categories. There are 4 categories. There is an emerging category. That means if you're 35 years old and below, or your business is between 2 to 5 years old. That means you're less than 5 years old, your business between 2 to 5. The second category is a woman category. That means any woman entrepreneur who meets those basic criteria can come in, but a woman specifically dedicated. The third category is a technology category. Now, in the early days when we started off, technology used to be equal to IT. But we have changed that now because we see technology growing in very different spaces now. So we look at technology as anyone who's building or developing specific technology where they have an IP over that technology. As an example, we had one category nominee. You may see his product all over the highways in Malaysia. It's called the Nehemiah concrete slab that is on all the highway, shoulders and highway.
The honeycomb shape.
Honeycomb shape. Yeah. That's his technology. He developed it, and we recognize him in the emerging category, in the technology category. So we have expanded the technology category in that space. We even had Norman of KRU. He actually expanded his graphic design, graphic movies, and so on. We accepted him as a technology. We had certain IP in that space. Then we have finally a master category. The master category is for the more established entrepreneurs, above 5 years business, and you have been running for longer term, in that sense. So we want to recognize the early stage entrepreneurs, the startup entrepreneurs, the ones who are building their business, and we also want to recognize very senior ones. In between, we have the women and the tech.
It seems like very diversified in terms of categories and participation. Can you tell us a bit more about the women category that you have? The reason behind it and when it started and where we are today.
So we started the women category right from the start. So 24 years we are running the women category. Now there are people who come to me and say that, hey, we live in a modern world. There's no differentiation, everyone equal rights and all that. But we feel every year when we reassess back the categories again, we feel that we still need to continue to recognize, specifically give a recognition for a category for women. Because like it or not, and I don't mean this in any disrespectful way, like it or not, generally there's a dominance of men in coming through our program. So we want to make sure that there is a space for a woman to be recognized, specifically her own space to be recognized. And I can tell you, they're equal or sometimes even better than the men. But recognizing that specific category is something that we want to continue to do so that we always have a safe space for women to be recognized. But having said that, Raja, in this year's program, we have more women participating in all other categories than ever before. So we're very proud of that. And there have been years whereby we have the highest number of women nominees in the category. So women really recognize this space. And I don't think there's any change in the way we evaluate them. The criteria is exactly the same. And they also go through the same judging process. There's no differentiation, just that we give a safe space for them to be recognized.
So when you say judging process, what do we mean by that?
So in Entrepreneur of the Year, right, globally as well, the judging of this program is independently done. So you started asking me about, why EOY does it. We actually are producing this program. We founded it and we're producing it. Producing it means running all aspects of the program, except that we don't judge the nominees. The judging is independently done for a reason, because we cannot self-review our nominees. Because some of them could be our clients. Some of them could be people we know. Some of them we could actually even nominate them because we believe they are suitable. The reason why we can do that is because there's independent judging. The independent judging is, to me, a bedrock or a cornerstone of this program. It is done globally as well, independently. No EY person involved in the judging process. So we have judges from all perspectives. Right? And in our case, we have a judge who is Stock Exchange, Bursa Malaysia. The CEO himself is a judge, a panel on our panel. We have Tan Sri Rebecca, who used to be the MITI SecGen. She's just retired from APAC, and she continues to be a judge for us. Dato' Hazima Zainuddin, and you asked about women entrepreneurs. She's the first woman entrepreneur winner, Hyrex Oil. 24 years later, her business is growing tremendously. So it just showcases to you what women can do, right, in their category. We have Ronnie Lim this year, who's a past year winner from OMS, who's on the panel. We have Encik Anwar from MDEC, the CEO of MDEC, who's on the panel as well. And we have Yuan from Kaki Seni and from Aeon. She's a well-known personality, actress and all that sort of thing. So she's also on our panel. So we have 7 judges on our panel, and they are quite totally independent from us. They decide, they go through the judging criteria, they assess them, and so on.
But how does it start? I mean, if there's a nominee, I mean, who fills up that forms, who interviews them? So what kind of process that is taken to make sure that there's integrity, there's quality control, that the right questions are being asked?
Okay, so maybe I tell you the process lah, might be easier. Every year, we start off by launching nominations in about January or February each year for about 3-4 months. Okay, the nominations can come from anywhere. Self-nomination, we encourage that because it means you're confident about what you want to be recognized for. You can be nominated by your employees, your friends, whoever. There's no restriction on who can nominate. Even EY, we can also push for a certain nominee because we know we're not judging, as I told you. So we can actually get someone to sign up. There's a form to fill up. Everything is done online now, by the way. There's no paperwork, no paper trail, nothing. So nominations can be by anyone in those categories, as I mentioned. We have a proper form. You have to sign up, and you have to acknowledge, and so on. And the nominee needs to agree. The nominee must agree that I will want to be nominated. So after nomination process, we go through a filtering. We filter all the nominations because some may not meet the requirements. So some basic requirements we have obviously is the criteria, as I mentioned. Malaysian or Malaysian PR, you need to produce 3 years of audited accounts. So you need to provide various information, your brand, your certifications, and information on your product or services, and so on. So we ask quite a lot of things. You have to submit that. If you don't give us your accounts, you don't give us certain basic mandatory requirements, you're taken out. And we call them and tell them you can't, to resubmit again next year or something like that. So we're very strict at the start. So once you filter the criteria, you come down to the remaining, those who qualify to enter into the program. Then what we do is for those who qualify, that means they met all the criteria, then we do interviews. EY does the interview. So a partner and maybe a senior person, a senior or manager to join that partner. We go out to the nominee and we interview each nominee, and there's a standard set of questions, and the questions have been set even globally assessed, and those questions take you through the life of the entrepreneur, the life and the contributions, the values, and assesses the various criteria I mentioned. What is your biggest entrepreneurial story? How did you become an entrepreneur? Why did you do? What were your biggest challenges? Have you failed, and why? How did you pick yourself up? That sort of thing. Because we want to get to the heart of that entrepreneur story. Because you must remember, this award is not about the business. The business is a proxy to the entrepreneur's success, entrepreneur's contribution, right? So based on that, we interview each one. Can go on for 2 years, 2 hours, 2-3 hours sometimes. And every interview is then recorded in a structured manner, and we pull all this information together and we submit that to the judges. This would be probably about August, September or so. So the judges evaluate each nominee based on the criteria that we have given them. It's all online. They mark, and so each category has got marks. Each nominee is looked at in these four criteria: entrepreneurial spirit, what their story is, what makes them the entrepreneur. Some people tell us, they grew up, parents were rubber tappers. They never had much. They never had proper food on the table, and so their drive, their spirit is, I want to get out of this. I want to become better than my family. I want to actually give a better livelihood for my children. Things like that. So the spirit drives them. Then we look at purpose. A purpose, again, driven by spirit. What's the purpose? I want to, now everyone can fly, for example. It's a purpose that they've set. Building a better working world that EY has set. Then we have impact. What is the impact on the community? And normally we look at economic impact, societal impact, ESG impact. The societal is part of that. So we are big into what is your impact on the environment, social governance, and so on and so forth. The last one is actually growth. What are your plans to grow? Generally, within that growth criteria would be financials and so on. But it's not, you must be $1 billion company before you win. No. The impact is, how are you growing? What is your plan to sustain your business? And how are you changing your business to grow in a certain way? That's what we ask. So the judges assess in these 4 criteria. They assess them cold because they look at the documents. And then based on that assessment, we give them a month and a half, and the judges physically meet again. We meet first to brief them. We meet again to actually go through the shortlist. So the judges, based on that long list that we give them, they will do a shortlist. And that shortlist is based on what they see, what they have read. And that shortlist is then announced at our top nominee announce. We have an event to announce. And that's become a big item on the corporate calendar now. People, we get 200-300 people. I think you have been to the event as well. And they wait for who's going to be shortlisted. Because shortlisting itself is a major thing for Entrepreneur of the Year. When you say you're a shortlisted top nominee, I think doors can open. That's what I've been told by our past top nominees. And then once we announce, we give them a lot of branding interviews, radio interviews through our sponsors, Edge interview, BFM interviews them, Nanyang interviews them. These are all our sponsors. And then we move towards the next stage, which is very critical, which is where the judges interview every single top nominee. Every single top nominee we get the judges together on a Saturday. They come and they spend almost a whole day talking to each of these top nominees. And talking to each of these top nominees is to reconfirm what they saw in the physical documents, to reassess the 4 criteria again, because their views can change when they speak to them. Their views may enhance when they see them. It can be, you may decide that, after talking to the person, maybe, someone else sounds much more much stronger in terms of the spirit, for example, And so the interviews are done physically, face to face. And once the judges do that, they have the option to decide on the winners, or they can have another meeting to decide. So what my role is, as I lead the program, is to moderate them, talk to them. Okay, you have looked at all these people. What do you think? And then the judges will make a call and they'll decide, and we get them to sign off on every single decision they make, confidentiality as well, because the results are not publicized to anyone. In fact, none of my partners know about it. Only I know and my team, because we signed confidentiality agreements. So once we finish the interviews and make a decision, then that's it. The envelopes are closed and nothing is done further on that. And then we prepare for the gala, which is normally in the end of the year. But at the background, for every single nominee that submits their profile to us and they are shortlisted through the basic criteria, we actually do a lot of background checks on them. We do SSM search. We do to make sure that the financials are submitted. They give us audited accounts. We check the audited accounts. We look at the SSM. We look at CTOS. We look at various angles to make sure there are no issues that can impact our brand on these nominees. And if there are, then we raise it to the judges. Generally, we even when they've decided on the winner, we actually do background checks and confirm up to the time when we're going to announce. I always tell the judges, up to the time when you're going to announce, I can still pull out the envelope if we don't feel comfortable. But that's how we run it.
From long list to short list, what's the number of nominations are we looking at?
Normally, when we shortlist, we would have 50, 60. 50, 60 nominees. In different categories, maybe about 10 or 12, sometimes 15.
And the sets of judges are the same across all these 4 categories, or you have different?
One set of judges.
One set of judges. So it must be a lot of work for the judges.
Yes.
So have you found any case at any point judges arguing and debating and
many times
getting it over a very heated
discussion? I can without mentioning names and the years, right?
Yeah.
There have been occasions whereby the judges fight with each other, really argue. And honestly, Raja, I like that because that shows you governance is in action. That shows you integrity of the decision making is in action. And they will argue and debate why they feel that this person should be better than the other person. And when they debate, as we debate on any topics, the real issues come out. This person, I feel, hasn't done it as much as this person. This person is growing in this part of the world, which is very difficult to actually sustain. This person is running his business in a country which is very corrupt, so I'm very concerned, Those sort of issues come up, and then we debate. So that happens quite a bit in the judges' meeting. But there have been occasions in the past, I can give you one example. There's one year whereby the judges made a decision, and I think there were one or two judges who were quite dominant. So the other judges said, okay, we defer to the final decision, and they agreed. And we did further background checks and we did further discussions, and we found internally that we were not so comfortable that the decisions may not be totally good for our brand and for the judges themselves. So there were various reasons for it, because of our checks and so on. So I had to go and speak to each judge personally and say, this is the issue, this is the thing that I want you to think about. And of course, the judges, when one-to-one, will tell me they're not happy with the meeting that they didn't get a chance to say this. So I said, this is why I'm coming to see you. Each of you all, what do you all think? We need to reassess. Not that I'm going there to tell them you need to decide on this person. No. I said, maybe you need to reassess. If you sit down again and reassess, if you're comfortable, then we go ahead. But I think you're not doing justice to your own position as judges. You're not doing justice to us as the brand owner of this program if you don't have another chat, because information may not be fully debated and discussed. So I called all of them and got them to come together. We hosted a nice dinner for them. I called all of them for dinner and I said, okay, now we want to one more discussion. And it turned out to be very positive because they actually they changed their decision. But they changed their decision based on a very healthy debate and discussion. And there are many occasions like that over the years. My role is to make sure that our brand is preserved and that the integrity of the decisions are properly based. Sometimes if the judges may not have picked up certain things, I have to go back to them. So that's why I said the decisions can change right up to the time we announce on the mic.
So it's important to find the right judge for this kind of work, right?
Yes.
So how does that happen?
Okay, so we have decided that entrepreneurs are the best people to judge entrepreneurs. So we try to make sure there's some level of entrepreneurship thinking in the judging panel. That's why we always have the past year winner. We have people like Dato Hazima, who's been an entrepreneur and has been on the judging panel. We have people like, in the past, we have people like MK Go from KRX. They've come on a few years after they won, they come on. So we try and get a few entrepreneurs onto the panel. Like this year, we have 2. And then we have people like Yuan who are also very entrepreneurial thinking. They run, of course, a corporate business, but they're very entrepreneurial thinking. They run NGOs and so on. Then we also try to look at the stock exchange, because regulatory governance, knowing what's going on in the business. And it also gives credibility to our judging panel. So we get that. And of course, we try to get MDEC involved because of the tech aspect. And I notice more and more MDEC is actually looking broader than just IT alone. So they look at digital data, how businesses are growing and so on. So I think that helps us to give a bit of a fair dimension of capability on the judging panel.
So when you look at entrepreneurs, who've been through this whole process of being interviewed, being assessed, and some will top the list, some will not make the list. So there's probably a clear line between a good entrepreneur and great entrepreneur. How do you see this difference? How do you know this is a good entrepreneur and a great entrepreneur? How do they draw that mark? Is it all based on the points, or is it based on the real charisma and the characteristics of the entrepreneur?
Actually, it's a combination, Rajan. It's a combination. It is not so. If we were to be very empirical and say, if you get the highest mark, you are the winner. There's been many occasions where the highest mark is not the winner because of the judging, the discussion, the face to face. They change their views, and it goes back to your point about the charisma, about the feel you get from the energy that entrepreneur professes. So I can give you an example. We had one case, one particular nominee. Unfortunately, I can't mention the name. It's a very famous organization. The nominee was the founder and current non-executive chairman of the company at that point. Right? And the nominee cannot speak English, can only speak Chinese, Mandarin. So shortlisted by virtue of the numbers, by virtue of the profile and all that, we shortlisted and brought in for interview. At the interview, because he cannot speak cannot speak English, he had to bring his son to be a translator. So we have no problem with that. The judges were there. In the course of the interview, the judges themselves realized that the nominee is no longer in touch with the business. Why? Because he founded a great business. Great business, If I tell you the name, you'll appreciate why. Great business, but no longer in touch with the business because handed over. In fact, the son, who was translating and most of the time answering more than what the father was saying, was the one running the business. So we can see very clearly, you need to be in the business, you need to be passionate about what you're doing, you need to have a future outlook to the business, apart from good numbers and so on that you can assess. So the judges, when they evaluated, very clear, they said, oh, this guy's business, if the son had come in, maybe a contender, but the father. So when we look at it, we decided that it's not no justice to not fair to the other entrepreneurs, right? So the person didn't get the award, right? But after the event, Raja, we have a lot of people coming to us, especially to me, and saying, how come? How come? Because when I tell you the brand, you know why. How come? I can't tell them why, but we know. In fact, we went back to the company and we told the son, you should, after everything was over, you should be the one. He said, yes, but in our Chinese culture, our family culture, we have to give respect to my father, which we understand. But we told them, if you want to be recognized as an entrepreneur, and you need to think about this. So there were some examples. So apart from just the empirical evaluations that we do, we also look at a lot of things. A lot of them come and tell us, oh, I'm giving donation to the schools, this school, I believe. But they do that just to tick the box on impact. But there are many who come and say they are running a very key social impact program, say for women in the village or women in the kampong and all that. We see education, long-term education, and so on. Those are the types of things that we look for. Environmental, we're changing our whole energy system to solar or renewables. Those are things we look for in the impact side of the house.
You've seen nominees winning awards across all these categories over these many years. And is there anything that you can say about what kind of common traits that cuts across, irrespective of which industry sector they are from? Can you name a few? From a leadership point of view.
Leadership point of view, you don't name the individuals, or no, right?
No.
It's never say die, number one. Never say die. In fact, we did a study many years ago on whether entrepreneurs, it's called nurture or nature. Are you nurtured? Are you by nature an entrepreneur? And the study showed us that 60% of entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, had started work somewhere, first work in an organization before they became an entrepreneur. 60%. I was quite surprised by that as well. Because in my psyche, I thought, these guys are like naturally, it is actually a nurtured capability and trait. Because of their experiences, as I said, when they are kids, they have a tough life, they want to do something different. They found an idea that they couldn't try and make it work when they didn't have money when they were kids or younger or whatever not. They want to do something different. So we found that very, very clearly as a big reason why entrepreneurs can succeed. And in that sense, common traits, if you ask me, never say die, always have got a very interesting story behind in their lives that made a difference. Very good, clear vision of the future. Never say die is one thing, Raja, but to be able to have a clear vision of what you want to see your organization at different points in time, actually is a very hard capability to have. Many people don't see that. They don't see beyond 2 years, but these guys can see 10 years. Tony, for example, can see 20 years ahead of what he wants Asia to be and so on and so forth, right? As an example. So these are types of traits that we see very different in entrepreneur. And I just want to emphasize again, we are not recognizing the business first. We're recognizing the entrepreneur. What do they do? The charisma, the ability for them to have an impact on the people who want to work with them. Of course, that study I told you also said that the other downside of entrepreneurs is that they always surround themselves with yes men. People will never tell them what cannot be done. And that's another trait that they need to deal with. But in general, those people who can see beyond the yes men into people who actually can give them the right advice of what to continue, what to stop, what business area to continue, what market to go on, what market should I stop, what product should I do, how should I change and pivot and whatever not. Those are the types of entrepreneurs who normally will succeed. But the openness to listening to your people, but the charisma to motivate your people is very critical. The never say die attitude, definitely in all of them. All of them I've seen.
What happens to the entrepreneurs who have won these awards post winning this? how do they fare in business and also as a leader? What would have changed?
Okay. So I just take a step back. In Malaysia, there are many award programs, as you know, but none of them have been around for 24 years now, right? Today, I can tell you, just to digress a bit, today I can tell you there are many award programs. You open your newspaper towards the end of the day, you see this award, that award, this award. Everything is black tie. Everyone gives an award. Everyone got so-called categories and so on. But we started it first. We started it when no one had any award program. We started it with proper structure, with proper process, governance, and so on and so forth, and independent judging and so on. Now, over the years, that has actually stood the test of our metal and our brand. Right? Everyone knows if you are EY Entrepreneur of the Year winner, you have gone through the mill. You have gone through the process. You have gone through the independent judging. You have gone through so much of scrutiny and challenge. In fact, many of them come and tell us, it was a good sense check for me, because if I didn't go through this program, I wouldn't have looked at my numbers properly. I wouldn't look at my future. I wouldn't have challenged my impact. I wouldn't have done more social work. I would have done a lot of things, because you stopped and sort of set some reset for me, sort of reset and reassess myself. I went on to be much better. So that is the background. And many award programs come in, and I tell many people that we actually judge for them. You just go and do some research. After Entrepreneur of the Year awards are announced, you will see a lot of our winners will win other awards, because we have judged it for them. The other award programs rely on us for the judging, because they get it for free. Right? We done the judging. So sorry to digress. But what I see is that entrepreneurs tell me, because of the rigor, because of the brand, the rigor, the global scale of our program, the global recognition, because you can go to any country around the world and say, I'm an EY Entrepreneur of the Winner. You walk into EY's office, or they will 100% help you. They will actually connect you with other businesses, do networking and so on, or they themselves can connect with other entrepreneurs around the world, because of our global nature of our work, our business, our award. So that has actually improved the standing of these entrepreneurs. Many entrepreneurs come to tell me that after the award, after we announce, all the profile, doors open, new contracts can be offered, new markets can be entered into, new collaborations can be done, whether with EOY alumni or not. The winning of this award on their CV has actually enhanced their value in that sense. And in fact, I can tell you also, Raja, there have been entrepreneurs who come and very upset with us because they didn't win. Okay, because they didn't win. For the judges have done the assessment, because they feel that their business value could have been higher if they had won.
So, I was just about to ask you what happens to the non-winners.
Yeah, some get very upset with us, but sorry, the judging is the judging. And of course, I must tell you also, Raja, that we assess the judging, the judges assess the nominees at that given year. Subsequently, if their business changes or evolve or they face challenges, that's not on us. We cannot control that. But we make sure that during that period that they've done something different, and that they've met the criteria, they've shown the vision. What happens after that with the vagaries of economy, you can't really control. Right?
But by virtue of being a nominee itself, wouldn't it bring some value to them?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And we allow them to say top nominee, we give them a certificate, top nominee of EY Entrepreneur, they put that in, and we even allow them to put a small little logo on their cards if they want to. Some of them do. Like Tan Sri Lim Vichai, it was one of our winners. I think he has it on his card for, I don't know, 20 years already. Malaysian Entrepreneur of the Year winner. Because for them, this is recognizing the blood, sweat and tears that Malaysia is one of the best in Malaysia. And the differentiating factor as well of our award is the fact that we have a global program. I know you're going to ask me about the world. That is a major differentiator. None of our other award programs have the same. When they go to Monte Carlo every year for the World Entrepreneur of the Year event, it's only, I guess, one of the key moments when they realize, wow, I'm really representing Malaysia. I'm the only one holding the Malaysian flag, and I'm Malaysia's best entrepreneur for 2024, 23 or 22. And I'm there at the same table as all the world's best entrepreneurs. Big thing, big difference. Your confidence, and a lot of them come back with a lot of interest to actually help our program, talk to younger entrepreneurs and so on.
So they see the value.
They see the value.
So from a global program point of view, in terms of judging criteria and process, do they have a uniform way cutting across all these regions and countries of EOY award galas and winning?
Yeah, the judging criteria is standard around the world.
Okay.
Around the world, entrepreneurial spirit, purpose, growth, and impact. These 4 things. We also influence the judging criteria. They ask us for input to fine tune some of the sub criteria to make sure judges easier for them to assess. But generally, these 4 are globally standard around every single award program anywhere in EOY around the world. The categories may be different. Some countries more mature, they may not need some of the categories we have, but we are in the emerging economy, so emerging is a good category to have. Some countries may not have; they may have 2 or 3 categories. So, but we don't. That one is up to them. But the judging criteria is this.
Since you mentioned business is a proxy to the entrepreneur, so when there's volatility in economy, would that change the criteria to judge?
Not really. So I when you talk about volatility, I give you an example of the COVID period. So 2019 was our last award program before COVID. Right? 2020, COVID hit us. And our winner in 2019 was actually My News, Dang Tai Lok from My News. Right? So unfortunately, they had to cancel the World Entrepreneur. He couldn't go to Monaco. That was one bummer for him. But 2019, we finished. And then 2020, we already heard stories about COVID happening in early 2020. We normally launch our award in March. And lo and behold, March, we had, the world closed down, right? Because of COVID. And we had launched, right? We had launched. So then the discussion was, what do we do? So I remember I had a conversation with our managing partner. And, just 2 of us, we had a chat about what do we do. Right? And one option was let's defer, because people are so caught up with this. People are lives, safety first, lives, and is it a good time, to do this, right? Because a lot of people associate our program, associate it with our gala and black tie, but it's not. There's a lot of things that happen in between to recognize the entrepreneurs and the work that they do. So one option was let's defer. And within that option was let's do it once in every 2 years. The other option was continue. So I said, my view was we should continue because we are talking about entrepreneurs. We're talking about entrepreneurial spirit. We're talking about purpose. And what better time to test entrepreneurial spirit and purpose in a time of difficulty? For yourself as an entrepreneur, for your organization and how you impact your organization and how you impact the community that you are in, in the economy that you're in. So I said, in fact, we should push on and be quite clear. This is why we're continuing. We're continuing in the COVID year because this is an entrepreneur award program. We want to recognize those people who are making a difference in a difficult time. So in our internal discussion, yes, okay, good, we continue. And no way we wanted to do it once in 2 years. Primarily because this space is ours. I mean, I don't want to sound arrogant, but this space is ours. No one else has an Entrepreneur of the Year program in the same manner we have. As I said, there are many other awards, but this is our space. If we do not do it every year, someone will come into our space and we may lose that standing that we have, fortunately or unfortunately. So we continue. We continue in that year, and I'm so glad we did. We have never broken any of the years, and that was a very interesting year because the stories we heard from the entrepreneurs or the nominees, so heartwarming, what they did for the community, how they helped people in difficulty, how they contributed, how their social impact enhanced by virtue of the need, not virtue of branding, you know what I mean? And in that year, we had very strong nominations, and we actually were able to actually do the whole process online. We actually evaluated everyone online, and it went really, really well. The only thing we did differently was we asked for more information on the financial performance because we knew there were challenges and so on. So we wanted to get information on that. So, as I said, entrepreneurial awards can go any condition, any situation, as long as you have a heart to it, to do it well and do it the right way. We didn't change our standards. We didn't change our criteria. We didn't change anything. We just continued on. Just that unfortunately, we couldn't have many physical discussions. We had even the award ceremony online for 2 years.
Tell me about these entrepreneurs who have won before. What would they be doing now? Say they've won this award 10 years ago. Would they be able to say that because of the award that my business have grown? Or would they be thinking, I want to go for another award? Can they come back again?
Okay, so just to give you an idea, the award itself, there are 4 categories, as I said. Emerging, technology, woman, and master. If you come into the technology category and you win the technology category, for example, but you do not win the country award, you technically come back later on as a master. That's the only 2 that you can probably think about. A woman can come back as a master. Emerging can come back as a master. You have a shot. But the main thing is that if you win the country award, you cannot come back again because you've won for Malaysia already. That's the basic criteria. And those people who have done it 10 years, 15 years ago, many have told me that the fact that alumni still continues to hold a particular brand and sense in the market. And you can tell by if they do an IPO, for example, they will have their profile of the founder and all that. Somewhere along the lines, EOY will be there. Somewhere along the lines, EOY will be mentioned. And we always recognize our entrepreneur winners every year. We profile them, brand them, and so on and so forth. And a lot of them have come back to publicly say that the award has actually made a difference for them. Some of them have managed to get contracts in, say, China or other parts of the world. And one of the reasons is because they have gone through this. It's almost like a criteria check, like a background check. The fact that you have this award means you have gone through a very stringent criteria check. One entrepreneur told me the week after he won, he got a big contract that doing security surveillance and so on in Middle East. Never ever be able to break into Middle East, managed to. So I can't mention individual names, but many of them have come back to tell us that having this award in their CV is not negative. It definitely helps them positively.
How difficult it is to organize this event?
It is takes time. It takes time, but it's more of your innovation and trying to do something different every year. Because as I said earlier, the judging criteria has already been set. We influenced it, but it's already been set. The program has already been set. I have a very good team that actually knows the process end to end, how to issue the nominations, which sponsors come back to us, how to publicize and so on. The degree of difficulty lies in managing the outcomes of the interviews, the judging process, and trying to innovate the way we actually brand ourselves differently every year. So like the events we have, how to change the way we actually showcase the entrepreneurs, the gala dinner, for example, how to actually infuse some local flair into it using our global teams and so on. That's the part that we need to get involved in. And also, as I said earlier, as an example, the judging process, when the decisions are being made, to actually bring the judges back to challenge, and again, if they need to, and so on, that requires senior leadership involvement. Other than that, generally, the process is quite structured. And the team that I have actually brings it end to end. I don't know what we done and work with them.
Yeah. So from the outside, it may look very perfect and smooth and stuff. But behind the scene, what happens?
Oh, behind the scenes, most events, you ask any event person who runs events, you will know every single flaw that happens, but people outside may not see it. I've had situations whereby, in fact, even last year, this is on me. I normally don't try, I try to speak off the cuff. I don't prepare much. I had something there, and normally I recognize the country winners in the room, in the gala. And so I met all of them. All of them, I know them well. And so I mentioned everyone. This person is here. What did they do? This person is here. What did they do? A bit of some color to their entrepreneurial journey, right? I went on and I missed one person. In fact, I went year by year. And from that year, the next one was this particular person. And he was there with his wife, right? And they were waiting for their name to be mentioned, and I missed it and went to the next person. And that was really, I was so embarrassed. And I actually told my team, you should come to the side and knock on the side and tell me. They didn't. They said, only mistake, leave it, So that was a bit embarrassing. I had to apologize. They were quite nice about it, but it's not nice, lah. I know it's not nice. I missed you and I went to someone else, and I couldn't turn it back after that. So that's one. There have been occasions whereby we've had missed things not functioning properly. We wanted drone to fly in to give us the award. The drone couldn't stop, couldn't open, so I had to find alternative ways. We had situations whereby sudden last minute change in the timing of the VVIP. We have to redo everything again in terms of program and so on. We had situations whereby the MC that we got wasn't really not that impactful, and sometimes we use internal, couldn't, and things like that. So many things happen at the back. This is on the gala itself. And during the course of the program, occasions whereby interviews are set, and last minute on the way to the interview, my team has an accident. Actual car accident, cannot go to the interview. Then that person says, I'm going overseas, I can't, so we have to, pivot and change. So those sort of things happen all the time. In fact, in the COVID period, we were tracking on it, how do we give the award? Because PKP cannot go anywhere. So we managed to get specific approvals, and we actually went to the nominees' home to give them the award when they won. So things happen like that, and you need to navigate.
Over the years, you've seen so many entrepreneurs going through this process, and I'm sure you've seen people coming from different age groups as well. 20 years ago and now, probably different sets of entrepreneurs today. How do you see them different from what we had before?
Okay, so first and foremost, I'll say that the criteria remains the criteria. Whether it's 20 years ago, entrepreneurial spirit is still relevant. Whether 20 years ago or now, purpose is relevant. Impact and growth still relevant. The thing that I see quite different now, even the older entrepreneurs who come through our program now, the older master, senior guys, is the level of digitalization, technology that they use in their business. Right? The onset of my world is not Malaysia, my world is the global market. Right? That's a very critical differentiating factor. A lot of use of data, a lot of use of digital technology, AI and whatever not. A significant amount of technology infusing the way they run their business. That's common across all. And especially in the younger entrepreneurs, how they've used those platforms, right, to actually build a business that you may not be so easy to have built in the early days. So as an example, we had one entrepreneur especially during the COVID time, came up with a business model to actually connect gig workers around the world. So he had sort of like a resource business where he was selling, like a body shopping, but selling resources with certain capability to different parts of the world. And the way he managed it is that if US, I got a few people in India, I got a few people in China, wherever time difference, I can manage the use of those resources provided they are at a certain level, and they can help, churn data, do analysis, like a shared service, almost like a shared service center, but I have a gig set of workers around the world. I got access to, I don't know how many thousand of workers because of my business model, and he set the platform and to do that. So these sort of things, the young people have really changed. We have people who come in to do social media, branding, for companies, because people really don't know how to do it. They've come in to fill that space, things like that. So the basic principles remain the same, just that the times have changed the way the business is run. In that sense.
Right. So now you are a senior partner in the firm, EOY.
Yep.
And you also
senior because of my age.
and also you run this program, EOY program. You have your own sets of clients that you manage day to day, and you have your own sets of group of people in your service line, etc. Now, how does this EOY kind of link with the work that you do, or they are two separate things and you have to wear two different hats at all times? How does that work?
Actually, on paper, you may think, or you may say, you can argue that two separate hats. But for me, I would not give this up for anything. If I go back into my career, I would not change what has happened, because I see the entrepreneurial work, the EOY work that I do, so much complementary to the work I do for my clients. In fact, it has I feel it has made me a much better business advisor to my clients. It's much better appreciation for business, much better appreciation for technology, but much better appreciation for the entrepreneurial spirit. Going back to I've been in the firm for many years, 30 plus years. I had different stages of intervention that helped shape the career and the appreciation for entrepreneurship. I started off as an article clerk, right? I don't have a degree. I just did SCPM and joined the firm. And at that time is again a spirit again, how to actually get through the exams. If you don't get through the exams, you got nothing type of thing. So in a way, correlation of that to entrepreneurial spirit. So work really hard, never really studied that hard in my life, finally managed to get through the exams. But after the exams, intervention happened where I got sent to US to work for a year under the secondment program that the firm sent me. Again, it allowed me to get out of comfort zone, work with foreigners, people. I never taken a plane before, right? And then I went to US, worked there for a year plus, and I was leading teams there, give you confidence, showed me that the world is bigger than your own little space in KL or wherever you come from, right? That was another intervention. I learned quite a bit and grew professionally that way. Then I came back to Malaysia. After a few years, I got secondment again to another organization as the head of finance. And that again taught me stakeholder management, dealing with C-suite, dealing with businessmen, vendors coming to see you, entrepreneurs. So you sort of understand what entrepreneurs are looking for when they want to work with you, And then it was good experience. And then a few years later, I was seconded again to an international oil and gas company to run a regional part of their governance practice. It was a very major experience for me. And I started learning about international management, dealing with different countries, different personalities. And it's a very large international oil company, which has got very difficult ways of different ways of running its business and so. So again, and then when while doing all that, I got into Entrepreneur of the Year somewhere in the 2007 period, as I mentioned. And to me, it's so complementary because I learned a lot of my skills today in helping companies because of my secondments and my experiences, of course, within the local chapter as well. But also because I got into entrepreneurship and it allowed me to see why people think this way, why people look at this angle of business, why people look at governance in this space, why people consider risk management not so critical to them, and they don't see the angle of why risk can be an opportunity and so on. So I see it as, thankfully, a complementary journey for me, my career. In the space of doing that, I got involved in a very large NGO in Bangladesh. I was again lucky because the NGO in Bangladesh is called BRAC. You can go and research it. It's I think one of the largest NGOs in the world, one of the best run. And I got involved with them because they didn't have a local firm in Bangladesh to support them in doing their audits, and I got involved. And it was one of my major experiences in understanding real culture in an organization. This NGO, where they actually really are very particular about the culture of accountability, transparency, governance, and so on. Again, it taught me another dimension, and empowerment of women, and so on and so forth. So another shaping of my career linked to EOY.
When you look back of your career when you started, as you have just articulated, at what point there were leadership changes happen in you that you need to change your style, or you got to change how you manage people or manage clients, or etc.? What made you to change, or how it made you to change?
Wow, over the last many years, many occasions. Actually, when I first joined the firm, I had no inkling of what the future would be like. I had no inkling because I just finished STPM, and I really didn't think I would have a career in accountancy. I'm an accountant, but somehow or other, by virtue of the fact that I didn't have much of a choice. I got a place in the local university, but I didn't want to do a degree. I wanted to do something different. So by not much choice, I was into the firm. Of course, I have no regrets at all. But initially it was all about understanding how to get through the exams, working hard to do your part. As you progress, you realize that a lot of the work that you do requires you to have very strong stakeholder management, ability to understand issues and synthesize them and problem solve and so on. And I must say, the experiences that I had in the early days shaped a lot of the leadership style that I have. It's about understanding. It's about being able to cut out the the noise and synthesize what is really the key problem. And I learned this from a lot of my partners then, who were able to do that and able to get out of the woods or trees and see the higher angle, right? And I think that was a big learning for me. Many occasions, I can't name all of them, but there were occasions whereby we were in a very difficult position on deciding on certain audits, opinion. We were going to, emphasize or qualify some audits, and would have been a major problem for the client, a major problem for us. But they made the call because of the fact that they stood above and said, this is what the right thing to do. So I learned quite a lot from those experiences. The reason why it's important, Raja, is because when as you progress in the firm or progress in any organization, as you start to lead, people look at you and the values that you want to profess. And I've always been very careful to ensure that the values that I try to bring across, and of course I'm not a saint, right? The values that I bring across is always doing the right thing, not being worried to raise issues when you feel there are issues to be raised, and always clear about the fact that there's no such thing as I cannot communicate, or I cannot get information, or I cannot find a way out of certain things. People used to come and tell me, oh, I'm trying to communicate with this person, but they never respond back to me. So I think we wait until they can respond back. I said, no. In this day and age, there's no such thing as one communication. There's so many different ways you can communicate. Communicate through their connections, to their friends, to their whatever. So I'm a very impatient guy. Over the years, I've become very impatient in various ways. But I feel that if you want to be a good leader, you must be able to first and foremost differentiate yourself by understanding the issue that you need to resolve, not the noise that comes under it. What is it that the client or the organization or internally you need to solve? What problem do you need to solve? Once you understand that, the decision making can actually take different ways and means, either communication or further information, or having a discussion with that particular individual or the client, or going through the details to synthesize where the problem is, and trying to solve it as you go along. But if you are not able to see that, then you cannot really be a leader. You need to really be able to see things from a bigger angle. And many people can't do that. They can't do that because they want to get so bogged down in solving the problem that you don't see the bigger picture at hand. And there are many occasions, even recently, I had to deal with one particular matter. There was a bigger impact. But if you only look at the technicalities of what you need to help your client or your organization, then you miss the bigger picture. And that bigger picture part is actually very crucial. And I've learned that over the years.
Do you think the younger generations are learning the same way that you did the last time around?
The younger generation now, someone told me the other day, you need to be hungry to be able to want to do better. And it's not literal. You need to have something lacking, some information lacking, or some desire lacking. Some desire you have is you have certain things lacking in getting what you desire. Only then you actually work really hard. As an example, you're going to be a sportsman, in the early days, right? I know that a lot of the sportsmen, there was no professional support funding and so on, even in various other organizations. And so they needed to work really hard to physically get to training and really work hard to train themselves, bring them up. So and because of all that effort they took in, when they actually represented the country or school or whatever, they really played their hearts out and they really did well. And that was because they had the hunger, and they satisfied their hunger by, an outcome. I find that younger people, and it is not their fault lah. Yeah. It's just purely the world we live in today is so tech and so fast. The decisions cannot take longer than 2 minutes, for example, because I can WhatsApp someone, or I can email someone, or I can look on Google and find something. I go to ChatGPT, I get some answer for myself. The capacity to sit back and problem solve a bigger picture sometimes not so easy to come by. People, in a way, are impatient to get an answer fast. Right? Today, if I tell you there's a very good char kway teow stall in Puchong, right? Well, I can't remember the name, Raja. I'm not sure. Somewhere, immediately you Google, say all the char kway teows in Puchong. You immediately within 30 seconds you tell me this is it. Oh yeah, that's the one. But in the old days, you would actually figure it out. You check, you drive there, you'll see the place, you'll assess, and then you find, okay, this is the place, something like that. So and during the course of doing that, you may decide, okay, I think this is a good place, or maybe it's not so good, not so clean. Maybe I don't want to go there because you've physically gone there and seen it. In this day and age, people want answers fast, and they are impatient. I myself am impatient as well. And they do not take the time to delve into real substance of what they're trying to get at. So I find that a bit of a challenge. People don't go into substance of things. And we at the older generation want to know the substance. Although we appreciate tech, but we need to know the substance. What is the issue at hand? Why is this problem trying to be solved? Why is this scope of work required of the client? Why is this governance problem happening in the organization? Why is this issue happening in their control framework, for example? If you do not go into those root causes, right, it's very difficult to advise. And sometimes we don't go deep enough to be able to have the ability to give the right information to your clients. And I always tell my guys, we are no longer in the business of giving vanilla advice. Vanilla advice you can get from ChatGPT, you can get from online or whatever. You need to go deeper. And that's the challenge in leadership today. You need to be able to get your people to want to go deeper. And to go deeper, they need to have the competency and the experience to go deeper.
And also, clients are getting more sophisticated today.
Yeah.
Backed with tech.
Yeah.
Backed with chatbots and more AI solutions. How do you see your area of work meeting these kind of demands with the new talents in place who are impatient as well? Is that a big challenge, or is that a gap that you are trying to close?
Okay. Yeah. So the firm that I joined 30 over years ago is a very different firm today. Right? Because in those days, obviously, audit was our bedrock, and everything was manual, physical paper, this and that. Not much. Clients didn't have that much information like they do today, and so you were able to survive because you were the Google, or you were the chatbot, or you were the ChatGPT to them, In this day and age, you cannot. So even the audit practice we have is heavily going through technological revolution, bringing in analytics, bringing in AI advice to the auditor, bringing in information that they can actually triangulate and whatever not to make decisions on outcomes of opinions and audits and work done and so on, so forth. Even audit. What more the consulting practice, right? Today, the consulting practice that we have, there's a huge focus on tech. So in fact, if you want to transform a business, which we do a lot of focus on trying to transform businesses, right? Companies come to tell us, I need to change my business model. I need to really transform. I want to go a new way of thinking. I want to build in tech. I want to do AI. I want to be AI expert. But the business is not ready. So we see a lot of organizations today wanting to transform, but their transformation is a lot to do with tech, right? As you rightly put. But they don't realize the plumbing and the housekeeping and the things. The people need to understand what is going to happen with new tech. How do they play a role? How do they contribute? How do they change their competency mindset? How do they enhance their mindset? How do they understand tech better? Because they are still required. The human in the loop is still required, even in the AI space. So that part, I think, has changed the way we actually operate. We are now doing a lot more work to connect business and sector, I mean, whichever sector you're in, with the tech. Right? So for example, if you come to me and say, I want to change all my process to AI. I want to let AI dominate 60% of decision making. I just have a look at the outcome only. It means a big change in your business, right? The business model, the business focus, the people. So sometimes some clients don't see that. They are impatient. They know the outcome they want. So our role is actually to help connect the business ideas that they want to, the technology ideas they have, with how the business can actually align. And that's not an easy task. It is not just program managing what people do anymore. It's a lot to do with understanding the business. So I give you a few examples. We do some work with clients where they have a business problem. For example, they have a collection problem. To give you a simple example, they have huge amount of receivables. Certain type of organizations, continuously delays in collections and so on. So they go back. How do we solve the problem? We can put AI thinking, quadrangulate the information, change the business process a little bit, change the way they do their follow-up, and we can actually get much higher level of collections because AI helps them to focus the right attention, the right energy on the right receivables or right debtors, things like that. Or technology in terms of engineering and so on. There's a lot of things can be done. But if you do not connect the business to the tech, right, then you may have a problem because you will lose the troops. The troops may not be able to follow. Yeah. I see that as a major area of focus for us.
Let's talk about future, right? So how do you see the future, the next maybe 3 to 5 years? Markets around Malaysia or Malaysia market, clients are now moving more advanced, they're getting more sophisticated. At the same time, you got to hire the right talent. There's also attrition rate that you got to fill up the gap. So it's a lot of juggling and balancing, like how you ride a bicycle. So how do you actually manage this so complex environment that you have in front? And what are the steps that's being taken today?
First and foremost, I think the future of the work that we do in the firm, for example, I think is going to change quite a bit. Most professional firms like ours run in a pyramid system. You have the pinnacle of the leadership. You got a big base of people at the baseline who actually deliver the work, and we leverage on that basis for costs and so on. So I think more and more when I look at the outlook, right, of our clients, technology driving the technology that's out there influencing our clients and what our clients really will need from us, they probably will need a lot more of the what I would call best brains and grey hairs. The best brains and grey hairs means people who have got experience, people who have got a lot more years that they're doing this, they be able to see different things differently, as I mentioned at the start. And the grey hairs are the more senior guys who can actually synthesize tech with people and sense check where things are going. So I see that as probably a change happening within the professional services. You need to have a lot more, bringing a lot more experienced people into the picture. But of course, you don't lose out on the baseline, but that may become a little bit more heavier in terms of your team, which also means your cost of doing business goes up, which means the value that your clients will have to pay you or fees will go up, but you need to make sure the outcome is there. What I see in this part of the world from a business angle is that if you look today in Malaysia and ASEAN, for example, there's a lot of focus on building long-term infrastructure for the longer term, for the future. Right now, you look at Malaysia, a lot of focus on building data centers. Right? Why data centers? Because the world, as we talked about, is looking at tech. And with tech, you need data. With data, you need storage. You need ability to extract the data, ability to synthesize the data. So you need physical centers, right? And fortunately, we are seen as one of the big ASEAN, especially Malaysia. So what happens when a data center is built? Of course, you may say, yeah, very good, the infrastructure we build and so on. But there's an impact of building those data centers for the growth of the world economy, but also for the growth of the Malaysian and ASEAN economy, the way I look at it. So as you go along, longer term, what ASEAN will need, I'm talking region first, ASEAN needs a better connected region, connected in terms of people, in terms of technology, in terms of power, energy, and so on. Why? Because if I do not connect the region well enough, I will lose out on a big chunk of opportunity for the region to be one of the highest most attractive regions for investment. With the data centers here, with the population that we have, and I did a check earlier on, 60-70% of ASEAN population are in the working, contributing to the economy. What does it tell? And other parts of Europe and other parts of the world are aging. What does it tell you? It tells you that the future of growth, the economy, will rely on a lot of tech growth, a lot of business investment coming in to drive tech growth, and people will need help in connecting the tech, connecting the people, connecting various aspects of their business models together. And we should be in that space to do that as a firm. And I believe we will be able to do that if we have the right people in front of our clients, advising them the right way. To be able to do that, we need to have the right people who are trained in the right way to understand the connection between tech and business. Right? So I think that's something that the firm is moving into. At the same time, the economic powers, right, in the countries are also talking about connecting energy together, connecting the grid, for example. Right? If you don't do that, I feel that ASEAN will lose quite a bit of attractiveness. So economically, the countries need to do something about that, and they're talking about connecting the grid. They're talking about connecting power. Why? We have a 3 trillion GDP in ASEAN today. Is expected to grow to about 10 trillion. How will it grow to 10 trillion? It has to grow with new tech, new energy, new ability to invest, and what the people are coming to invest, and so on. The population is going to 800 million. To grow to 800 million with a dominant working, you need to have something differentiated in your region. And coming back to Malaysia, Malaysia is also a subset of ASEAN in that sense. We need to actually make sure that we have a well-connected economy which understands digital, understands new tech, and ability to connect the business to it. I see that as a big space for us to play in this day and age.
Okay. With all these things put together, your experience with the Ernst Young Entrepreneur of the Year award over the last several years, and your role as a partner in the firm, driving the business, managing people, managing revenue, managing market size, etc. What would be 2 or 3 advice that you would like to give our viewers and our listeners?
I think one thing I would strongly suggest is never take anything for face value that you see today. That my experience for the last 30 years, I never imagined the tech capability we have today. I never imagined that I would be able to communicate with clients in the manner I communicate today. I would never imagine having the access to data and information to help me in understanding how I can be better at helping my clients, helping organizations. So one is never underestimate the possible, the art of the possible. And I think you need to have a mindset of continuous innovation, continuous thinking of the changes that can happen and how that will impact the business that you are running, for example, or your leadership style, and so on. The other thing is, I think people. Our people today are very, very smart. They are impatient. They get everything very fast. They're quite savvy about all that. But sometimes you need to keep the basics, the communication, the connectivity, the physical connectivity sometimes really on the table. In the period of COVID for a few years, sometimes we didn't see our people, and we kept everything online, right? Online maybe is good efficiency and so on, but it also changes the psyche of your people with mental issues, mental challenges, and not be able to interact and so on. So we need to obviously understand the art of the possible, we need to ensure people appreciate that, but you need to keep some of the basics of communication, connectivity, sharing the values, influencing their decision making, influencing them in terms of building their competency, and so on and so forth. And I guess the third thing I would say is we need to continue to be purpose driven. We need to have the purpose. Why is, for example, why is EY building a better working world? What are we doing to build a better working world? Are we building a better working world because we have 130 partners who need to make a lot of money? Or are we building a better working world because we have 4,000 people that need to understand their impact on Malaysia or beyond? Yes. Are we building a better working world by making sure we connect what we know and what we have invested in our people, our technology, and our business knowledge and sector knowledge, and to bring that together to actually help our clients? Yes. But if you don't have that purpose of continuing to want to look at nation building, better working world, those sort of taglines which you say is a tagline, but really influencing that into your people and your leadership style, then be quite tough.
We truly appreciate your sharing of your experience at work and the journey that you have taken so far. And we definitely want to thank you for your time today. So thank you, Philip.
No problem. Thanks, Raja. All the best.